Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're feeling fabulous. I'm feeling really warm right now. I might have to take my socks off. I apologise for anyone. You actually can't see my feet. I don't know why I'd even need to tell you that I need to take my socks off, but that's better. I don't know what it is about, like, don't you find it mad that, like, you hold so much heat in your feet? Anyway, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a fabulous start to your week. I hope you're feeling great. The weather's better. I'm feeling this good weather. I feel like we've been waiting for this for so long. And now we're actually in the summer months. I think we're like ready for it. But you know when it's just going to fly by, because the summer months are the best months. We're here for it. We love it. But today I wanted to talk to you guys about healing and being stuck in your healing journey. One of you lovely listeners messaged me and asked me to talk about this because sometimes it can be hard when you're in your healing journey to keep going. You can feel stuck. You can feel very like you've plateaued, like nothing's really getting any better. So I thought we could just talk about a few things you can do and just talk about it in general, because healing is a lengthy process. Healing is almost I would say it was a self-growth journey. It's a lot about figuring out where everything comes from, where everything stems from, what triggers you, what dealing with emotions and things like that. And I think when it comes to healing, whatever you're healing from, because everyone's dealing with different things, it's really delving deep into what it is that needs healing. Often you'll find that with healing, there's a lot of things you didn't really ever think about. You didn't realize how much it took a toll on you, or until you get rid of things, or you stop speaking to people, or you stop having conversations with people, you don't realize quite how someone can affect you. And over the years, as I've realized how important it is to, feel the feelings and really understand where your emotions come from and what has triggered you and what makes you feel a certain way, I've realized just how important it is to really understand how your body works, how your mind works, how you feel about certain things, what makes you feel a certain way, and how some things can really affect you. I have been through, quite a few different things that have affected me quite hard, whether that's getting rid of a toxic friend or dealing with a toxic environment. All of these things can have an effect on you. Or maybe if you've lost a family member, or you've lost someone deeply loved within your family, whether that's a family friend, someone you know who's close to your family, just a friend in general. There's a lot of things to deal with in life, and healing can come from anything. Even if you've just broken up with someone, a friendship breakup, there's a lot to process that you might not have ever thought about processing before. And I feel like we get stuck in this journey of, okay, I need to get better. And sometimes you can get stuck and be like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go next. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's the best thing to do. Because when you're healing from something, you really do have to pay attention to, you have to get to the bottom of it, essentially. There's no two ways about it. You have to figure out what's going on deep down inside you, where things come from, why you feel a certain way, to then get to the point where you can be like, right, okay, now I know how to tackle those things and work on those things. So let me use me for an example so you guys can kind of understand. I was dealing with a really, really bad patch of anxiety from some people that were in my life. And it was a real struggle. Like, I haven't been in that darker place in quite a long time. It wasn't the worst. I can't lie, it wasn't the worst. But it was tough. I really struggled. Like, I wasn't myself. I wasn't okay. And I just kind of pushed it to the side because there wasn't much I could do about it at the time. I started dating someone, and it completely took away a lot of the stress. I wasn't putting it on him, but like, it just distracted me away from what was going on. And almost made me feel a little bit better. I had that person there, that wholeheartedly supported me. Even though I had all my friends who wholeheartedly supported me, he was someone who really did support me, and I was incredibly grateful for that. I'm incredibly grateful that at that time he was there, because I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't have met him, because he really helped me through those last few months before I took a moment to be like, no, I need to get out of this. So he really did help me just get distracted from that situation. Anyway, he ended it with me, and I was devastated, but I think I dealt with it in a way in which I was devastated. I was so sad, but because I had been going through so much at that time, I think it hit me 10 times harder than it would have if I hadn't been going through that much stuff. And at that moment in time, after I dealt with the fact that that was over, which I didn't expect, I then realized just how much I needed to like delve deep into where all of these feelings were coming from. What was affecting me? Why was it affecting me like that? Why was I feeling like a certain way? Why? Because people's actions are people's actions, but it's how you deal with their actions and how they treat you and how you deal with it is what then stems either you being in a bad place or being in a good place. And I took a lot of time to myself and took a lot of time to figure out what was going on. The boy situation was the boy situation. That I could get over because it was just a boy. There's other boys in this world. There's other people I'm going to meet. There's going to be other situations. There's going to be, you know what I mean? Like that was almost like an add-on. He kicked me whilst I was down, but that was an add-on to what I was already feeling. So I initially had to deal with that because that was like the forefront of my mind at the time. And then after that, I realized, okay, well, I really need to figure out like what's going on here, because whilst I was in a bad place because of the way I was being treated and whatnot, I then was like, okay, what is going on? Where is this coming from? Is it me? Have I done something wrong? And then when I really thought about it and when I really went into it, I realized it wasn't me. I wasn't feeling anxious because of me. I was feeling anxious because of the situation I was in. People often, if people have been going through a lot of trauma and have been through a lot in their lives, and if they haven't taken the time to speak to a therapist or deal with it themselves, they often put their trauma on you. And I'm not saying that I haven't done that. I'm not saying that that's ever been like I'm like perfect, because I'm probably not. I'm sure I've done it at some point. But often people will do that and they'll put their trauma on you and you'll get like sucked up. But it's not even the fact that they'll put exactly their trauma. They will take it out on you, or they'll do things towards you that will alleviate something to do with their trauma, but it'll push it onto you. And that is something I have dealt with. And it's something that for the most part, I'm very much like, no, it's not my fault. But if it builds up and builds up and builds up, it then becomes quite hard to deal with. I'm very emotionally, I empathize with people a lot. So if someone's quite sad or if they're feeling down, I can empathize with that, and I take the emotions in. Especially if someone's close to me, I'm gonna feel those emotions because I'm gonna understand how you feel, and it's gonna become something I might feel. So if you're often quite negative, then it's gonna have an impact on how I feel. And I've been told a few times that I was negative, but I'm not negative, and I knew I wasn't negative. I'm not a negative person, but if someone is negative towards me, I will seep it in, and then it'll come out negative, even if I don't mean it to be. And when I realized that all of these things that were making me feel so crap, and why was I feeling so bad, and like my anxiety was my anxiety, but it was getting to the point of where was it stemming from to make me feel like this. And it was the ways people were pushing their emotions and their feelings towards me without necessarily knowing they were doing it, but just to know that it wasn't that it wasn't me who was the issue, was something I really needed to work on in order to then heal from everything that I have been dealing with, to get on with it. Does that make sense? So even though I knew it wasn't me, that obviously there's parts of it, I guess, like healing from anything is really long, like dealing with like after the breakup situ, dealing with like feeling alone, feeling betrayed, all those things, that is one thing in itself. And that took a long time to get, that took me a while to get past, for sure. And the anxiety side of it took me a good, probably 6 months. I don't think I really felt properly myself until the start of this year. And this year has been amazing. Like, I've had such an amazing 2023 so far. I've got some amazing friends around me, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. And these things, I finally do feel like fully myself. I don't feel attached to it. I feel good about it. And that's just because I've taken so much time to heal. But it has taken me a long time. It's probably taken me 6 months to get me somewhere. But there's always a point in which you'll feel stuck, because you feel like, oh, like it's not working, or nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Why am I not getting better? Why don't I feel my best? Well, there's a lot of things you can do to remember just how far you've come, because I bet you might be sat there thinking, oh, I'm really struggling with this. But you've come so far. Like, I think there's a lot of action to be done, and a lot of appreciation for the actions you make to help and benefit yourself, and to get yourself out of shitty situations. I, at one point, was paying double rent, which is expensive in London. Granted, I was only paying for a room before. But I was paying for double rent for a month and a bit, because I needed to take myself away from a situation. I needed to get out. I needed to leave. I needed to get out. I wasn't doing okay. And I think if I'd stayed there any longer, I would have probably really not been very well. So I had to make an action. I had to. That was the only thing I could do to get myself out. And I took action, and I'm so glad I did, because I needed that. And when it was only like till I'd been living alone for a bit and dealt with the boy situation, that I realized just how far I'd come, and what I was actually dealing with, and the situations I was dealing with. Because I think often when you go through something, you just deal with it, right? You just brush it aside, you deal with it. You don't think about the extent of what you're dealing with. You just think about living day-to-day life and going with that. And then when you take a step back from it, and when you've healed a bit, you're like, oh my god, that's a lot. And everyone I've spoken to about this time that in my life, they're shocked that I had to deal with certain things. And then I look back at it and I think, whoa, oh my god, like you've actually done quite well. Like, you've actually really taken that time. And I'm so impressed with myself, and impressed with how much more I am sure of myself. I've always been sure of myself, but I've really become someone who's quite confident, and I believe in what I believe in, and I'm strong about things. And if someone's trying to call me out, I'm no. If you're saying something that's not right, I'm going to say something. I don't like when people twist words. I've really become more confident in the way I deal with things now, because I understand that it's important to communicate when you're feeling shit or you're feeling down. Some people will make you feel uncomfortable, but you have to do it, whether that's in friendships, relationships, anything. And it's taken me a long time to get to that point, but this is only something I've learned through the healing process of dealing with these situations. And unfortunately, in this world, you have to deal with these situations, and the universe does it for a reason. We just have to go through it and figure it out, and we'll be grateful at the end of it. But looking at your progress and the amount of progress you've made is something that we can all do. So if you're really struggling, you're really stuck, you're like, oh my god, I don't know where to go next. Take a moment, maybe get your journal out, get a piece of paper out, write all the things you've achieved already since that. They could be the smallest things, like for instance, say you've been really struggling to get out of bed. Maybe you got out of bed, you can get out of bed now every day, you're managing to do that. Maybe it might be that you've managed to go back to that workout class that you have really wanted to, but you've had no confidence to. Maybe it's the fact that you don't feel so sad about a certain situation, or you can detach yourself from someone, or you've blocked them on Instagram, or you've unfollowed them, or maybe you've found some new friends and that's kind of taken you away from that, or you've I don't know. There's so many different things, but write everything down. It could be so minuscule, it could be so small, it could be like a big thing. But write them all down, and you can then actually see in front of you how far you've come, the things that you are able to do. Because I believe there's probably little things you've forgotten about, things you don't realize that you've achieved. And when you realize how much you've achieved and what you're looking at and like see it in front of you, you can then be like, oh my God, I actually have achieved something. I am getting somewhere with my healing journey. It's just a slow process. Some people's healing journeys are really quick and some people's are quite long. And often it depends on what you've gone through, what you're dealing with, who has affected you, the type of people, the situation you're in. There's a lot to counter in to one situation. If you're just going through a breakup, that's one thing. But then if you're dealing with other things at the same time, obviously that's another thing. If you're dealing with, I don't know, something going on with your family or parents, whatever, that can be quite difficult. But just look at how far you've come, what you've achieved, what you've done so far in your healing journey. You could be at the start of your healing journey and being stuck. It's okay. It's more than okay to be stuck in your healing journey, but just look at where you are and what you've done so far, and it will hopefully spur you on to keep going. And sometimes you just need to be able to see the achievements in order to then be like, I've got this, I'm ready to go. So it is definitely a process of understanding the achievements and thinking about it, because it's going to take you back through, the process of where you're at, what you're doing, like, and whatnot. Like, say you're broken up with someone, say you're at a point where you're finally not constantly looking at their Instagram, or you're finally not checking their stories, or you're finally not seeing if they've liked your picture or watch your stories. Do you know what I mean? All of those things are things that, like, that's an achievement in itself. I think as someone who's been through it a few times, when you eventually detach yourself from that person, when you eventually be like, I actually don't care anymore if you're seeing my stories, if you're watching my stories, if you're liking my pictures, that's when you can release it. The best thing is when say you broke up with someone, you're not seeing them anymore, is when you get a message from them and you're like, oh, bore off, and you don't reply. It's like the most amazing feeling, because you can be like, too late honey pie. Another one is to keep learning, keep discovering things about you, about the situation you're in, about healing. Learn about it, figure out, like, so if you're stuck and you're like, I don't really know what else I can do, maybe look at what other people's healing journeys have been like. Look at what you can do to heal, research into it, figure out like what other avenues you can go down, because there is obviously a lot of different ways in which you can help yourself throughout a healing journey. And with healing, it isn't just about just sitting there and waiting for things to happen. It's doing things. It's finding things that make you feel good, and finding things that make you, like, forget about that shit and bring in the new. It's having those good things around you that I think then help to progress your healing journey. There's a lot you have to do in your own self, and a lot of that own self is journaling, it's understanding, it's letting yourself feel the feeling, it's really getting a hold of the situation you've been in, dealing with the situation, getting over the situation, which can take a bit of time, and then figuring out how you can either fill that time that you may not be having. So say, for instance, maybe you're talking to someone and now that person's gone and you feel like a void. It's filling that time. If you're someone who has spent so much time like worrying, and it's taken up a lot of time within your mind and within different things, and now you have a lot of free time, again, filling those times. It's filling those moments and discovering new things, and finding things that you maybe didn't know about or you didn't realize about yourself that you now love to do, or pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. There's so much you can do within your healing journey, but you have to be willing to do it and push yourself to do it and push yourself to do new things. And you don't know what's going to help until you do it. Everyone's different, of course, and everyone's going to go through different things. Like, you might be someone who really wants to get active, but you don't like exercise. It's pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and just diving straight in. And do you know what? Ever since I've started doing Pilates, I think it's made the world of difference. Not only my body, like I'm starting to see results within my body, I also feel like it's helped my mind a lot. And I do feel less like anxious. I do feel less stressed. I don't have that so much. But also I still do worry. I still have those things. But I find that doing the exercise, it gives me something new to focus on. It gives me something else. It gives me something else to like be like, yeah, about. And when I realized I started getting results from doing Pilates, it spurred me on so much more. So it's almost like this. It's like, you know, what I said before about looking at your achievements. It spurs you on to be like, yeah, I've got this. And like discovering new things and discovering how you can heal more and discovering other things you might be interested in, even if it's just something really small that you can then mold into a new thing. To help you with your journey. But like there's so many things you can do, whether that is reading, whether that's exercising, whether that's, you know, going out meeting new people. All of these things are just things that you have to figure out what works for you and what's going to help you go forward. Because if you're plateauing, then there's clearly something you need to do in order to get you to the next step. And often it's putting yourself out there and just getting yourself out and doing things and switching up your current situation into something new. Remember, though, that this is all temporary. These feelings are temporary. You'll get through this. When I was dealing with, you know, the shitty boy situation last year, I was like, I'm never going to meet anyone. I was in a low headspace anyway, so it really wasn't helping me. But I just didn't think I'd ever meet anyone as like him. He is an asshole, but I never thought I would meet anyone like him because we got on so well. And then I started to go on dates with other guys when I healed from that part. And I realized there were other nice guys out there. I mean, some of them were not a vibe. But I still got myself out there, and that's fine. You have to do that. And then I dated someone who was like a dream. It didn't work out, but he was like a dream. And I was like, okay, there are nice people out there. And I'm glad that all these things have happened. I think they teach you something. But just remember that the feeling is only temporary and things will get better, like they always do. And you'll look back and be so proud of yourself. Like I look back at the situation I dealt with last year and I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself for like semi-opening up about it. I'm proud of myself for talking about it. I'm proud of myself for dealing with it. And I'm proud of myself for not letting it affect me to the point where I could have gone down quite a steep hill very quickly. I could have, if I hadn't have taken a bit of action, and I took action at the right time, and it really helped. Like my friends, God, they dealt with a lot at the time, but I'm so thankful for them because I needed it. So remember that it's only temporary. It really is only temporary. Another thing that is really important to do is to understand your emotional triggers. Everyone has them. They're always different. And they're always going to be things that will have come from something in the past, most likely. There's certain things that will be emotionally triggering for you. For instance, when I was away with my friends, for my friend's hen do, we were talking about parents, and we're talking about, you know, just situations, because a lot of us deal with, I've got a really itchy arm because I've got a bite on it. I've got so many bites from my trip, honestly. I feel like I keep finding new ones and it's really annoying. Anyway, off topic. Talking about parents, talking about mums, talking about situations we've been dealing with and whatnot. And someone was talking about their mum and just stuff she was dealing with. And it triggered me because I've dealt with things with my mum. Now, our situations were vastly different. But it was an emotional trigger. And mostly because someone not too long ago said a comment and it really stuck with me. And it wasn't a very nice comment for a friend to say, to be honest. And it stuck with me, and it just talking about parents emotionally triggered me, and it sent me into a bit of sadness. I mean, I was on my period, so I think that didn't help, but it was something that I realized, okay, I need to not, if in that situation, I need to not bring this up or go too deep into it because it clearly emotionally triggers me, and it's something that I can't quite deal with right now because I'm still dealing with the fact that that comment hurt a lot and it's really got to me. So I was like, okay, like that's something I realized that's triggered me. That's a trigger. It's a proper trigger. I also find when someone doesn't treat me very nicely, these are just examples, by the way. If someone really doesn't treat me very nicely, friend, whatever, it majorly triggers me to, it starts off my anxiety. And now that's quite normal, I would say, but it goes back to like when I was at school or things I've dealt with when I was younger. That's where the triggers come from. They come from deep down within when I've dealt with things at school. I wasn't bullied at school, but my anxiety was horrendous. So they always go back to those things. Do you know what I mean? But any emotional trigger you have is something you just need to understand. Certain things will trigger you and certain things will then set you off and make you feel a certain type of way, and it's just understanding and remembering that is something that if you hear it, you see it or anything, you take a step back, you say, I don't want to talk about this. It's like if you have if you're one of those people who gets really squeamish about blood and it makes you feel a bit funny, when you hear someone talking about it, you take a step away and you think, no, not for me. Like when I see like videos of people doing like surgery on people on like the TV, I get quite squeamish with those things, and I fainted at school once because of it, and I know that triggers me, so I just don't look at it. So it's like that. It's like finding those things, knowing what the triggers are, knowing what the emotional feelings are, knowing what it is, and being like, right, I need to stop this conversation, or I need to leave, I need to take a moment, I need to take a step out. Because once you know what they are, you can get on with life, you can get on with things, and you can progress that healing journey because you're like, okay, right, so if I know I am emotionally triggered by someone saying a certain thing, then anytime they say that certain thing, I can get up and remove myself, because I know if I go deep into that conversation, the anxiety will start, the feelings will start, I'll start to panic, etc, etc, etc. I have dealt with before the way in which someone would speak to me would make me triggered, and if there's a certain, and it's also depends on the person as well, because if it's a person as well, that doesn't also help. But I was triggered so bad that I had a panic attack, and that was horrible. It lasted so long, and I couldn't, it was horrible. But I think once you know what they are, it can really make you feel a lot better. And if you're open, especially to your friends about it, if you're in a situation where you're like, I need to leave because this is triggering me, then you can take a moment out, because like everyone has their own triggers, everyone's different, so everyone's going to deal with them differently. But know what they are, and then you can step forward into the next part of your healing journey and, you know, continue to grow into the most amazing person that you are. Also, learning self-awareness. Doing things that you love that won't trigger you is also very important. So be self-aware of the situation you're in. If it's making you feel uncomfortable, if it's making you not feel great, if it's triggering you, get out of it. Take a step out of it. Remove yourself from it. It's important within your healing journey, your self-growth journey, to be doing things that you wholeheartedly love. Don't do things you don't enjoy. Don't do things that make you feel uncomfortable. Obviously, there are things in life we have to do that might make us feel uncomfortable. But there are things out there that you can do that you love and you enjoy. If you like to spend your evenings at home alone, do that. If you want to go and work out, or you want to go sit in the park, or you know that you really enjoy going out on the weekend, or you just want to do cleaning around your flat, whatever is the thing that makes you feel good and makes you feel great, those are the things you need to do. Everyone has different things. Some people do just like to get drunk every weekend, and that's something that they really enjoy. Not necessarily getting like smashed, but just going out and dancing and having a good time. Sometimes that's what people like. But other people, you know, like to sit at home. I would say one of my favorite things to do is sit at home in an evening and watch a movie, watch a TV series. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. I enjoy my home. I think that it's like my safe haven. So it's one of my favorite things to do, and I'm so like happy to say that. Before, I felt like I was boring. when I was dealing with things before, I really felt like I was boring, that I just liked to stay at home, that I liked to stay in my room. But then I realized it was so normal. It's normal to do that. You don't have to be going out all the time to be living a good life. And I think sometimes when you're in a situation, I think often when you live with people as well, you push yourself into a box where you're like, I have to go and do this. I need to do these certain things because it makes me boring and I'm believing blah, blah, blah. Especially if you're not in a great headspace either. But as I started living alone and started working on myself, I realized, you know what, you got to live the life you want to live. You got to live the life the way you want to live it and do the things you want to do, and less about doing the things you feel like you should do. I don't really go out anymore, not because I don't want to, but I don't have the urge. I like to be wholesome. I like to live a wholesome life. But I also like to save myself for certain situations. Like if there's an occasion coming up, I want to save myself for those moments and enjoy those moments, because those moments are coming and they're more fun. And, you know, do you know what I mean? Just do the things you love. I promise you, like when you live a life where you do things you love, it gets 10 times better. It's so much more enjoyable. And I think it does help with the healing journey, because you are living a life you actually love rather than doing things you feel like you should do. Obviously, sometimes like with work and whatnot, you do have to do things you don't enjoy. That's normal. But I'm talking about in general sense of the word, like things you do like on the weekends and where you go. If you're not hanging, if you don't want to go out all the time, just be like, look, I don't want to come out. And anyone who's judging you, anyone who's making you feel bad for your decisions and the way you want to live your life, is down to them. That's their personal opinion. You don't have to take their opinion. That's just how they feel. What you want to do is what you want to do. Obviously, if it's detrimental, if it's bad for you and it's not a good thing, then obviously you need to take on board your friends, family's advice. But if it's just, you know, you just don't want to go out, or you want to live a wholesome life and you want to do things a little bit more your way rather than how everyone else is doing it, then there's no harm at all. Just make sure that you are doing things that you absolutely love and it's benefiting you. And that will really help with your healing journey. But remember, you know, healing is a process. Healing is something we have to give time to. And often it's something that you still go through over time. There's a lot of healing we have to do in general, but you want to be surrounded by people who are also doing the healing. When you're surrounded by people that aren't healing from their past traumas, those people are only going to bring you down. And unfortunately, we are often surrounded by those people, and those people can sometimes be quite toxic and narcissistic and hard to be around. So it's important, if you can, to take yourself away from those people and, you know, continue your journey. Your journey is going strong. You're probably a lot further along than you think, and believe you me, when you get to a point where you're feeling good, you'll be so grateful that you went through it all, that you just dealt with it all, and you spent a lot more time on your own and you did things the way you want to do them. Now that I live a life where I do things how I want, how I like to do it, what I enjoy doing, I live a much better, a much happier life. A life where I just feel good. I like the life I live. I really do. And before, you know, I lived a bit of a, I feel like I should do this kind of life. And that life wasn't really supporting me in a way in which I felt confident within myself. I think I was really dipping and I wasn't feeling the most confident me, because I was living a life that wasn't fully me. Does that make sense? So remember, you've still got time to heal, still got time to work on your healing journey. Just give yourself a bit of time, journal, figure out what it is, where it's coming from, what you've achieved, and you will get to where you want to be, I promise you. Life's good when you just give yourself a bit of time to work on those moments, because once you've healed, you'll attract other people that are healing, that have healed too. And if you're looking for a relationship or something like that, then you should hopefully, once you've healed from everything, you'll meet someone else who's also healed from everything, and you'll meet at the right time. That's what I keep telling myself anyway, because hopefully the universe will bring you the right man at the right time. And same for everything else. You'll get your career when you're meant to. Everything happens for a reason, and everything is meant to happen when it's meant to happen. So if you're still going through your healing journey, then that's okay. That means that you've still got a bit more to do before you get to the point where you'll feel good, but you will be glad that you did it in the end. So yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you. I hope this oh my God, can't speak. I hope you found this useful. I hope that it gave you somewhat of a bit of inspiration if you're struggling with your healing journey, and hopefully it has helped you boost a little bit. I'm sorry that it sounds a little bit less enthusiastic throughout this podcast, but my voice is going. I don't know why. Probably from all the talking, singing, screaming and everything I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. But anyway, I love you all, and I will see you all in next week's episode. Bye!